Hey y'all, this is Kandi'S It's called The Real Housewives of Atlanta presents Kandi's Wedding. Alright, this is episode 1 review, or technically they still have it as it's a part of the season, so it will be season 6 episode 28. But the link will be below down in the description box. I promise, I will put it down there. Excuse me, y'all. It is 1 o'clock in the morning. I am tired, but we're going to go get through this. I ain't wrote no notes, so we're going to go off the top of the dome. So, first starts off, and Kandi is talking to Todd about the wedding and how she wants to set it on April 4th, 2014, 4/4/14. So even, no matter how old they get, they're going to always remember that date. And she talks to him. She says she wants to have some kind of African thing. And it's because they met in Africa or whatever. And they're sitting there talking about how they met in Africa. And he talks about she gave him a lap dance. And he was like, your inner stripper came out. She was like, no, I was just dancing. And he's like, no, I think your inner stripper came out or something. I don't know what was up with that. And how the last day of the Africa trip, they just talked all day or whatever. So then, Kandi goes down to the candy factory, and she has her workers. She has her manager, Don Wine, and Carmen, and I think some other guy named Johnny. And they're talking, and she's telling them, since we did such a good production with the musical, we have to start working on our next new big production, and that would be my wedding. And they all just looking at her like crazy. And she has all the things, that she wants done written on her board. And she's like, I thought y'all would be excited since this is my wedding. They was like, well, we're happy you're getting married, but we looking at that date, and that say 4/4/14, and it's 2/28/14. That's 5 weeks away. And she's like, yeah, well, that means you got to start working on it right now. And she tells them she wants to come into America thing. She told Todd earlier that the budget was going to be around 6 figures, and that he gonna have to pay his half. So they're gonna put a lot of money, and this is definitely going to be a big production. And her team just feel really pressured, because that's a lot of work to do in 5 weeks. She want lions, tigers, bears, all that shit in 5 weeks. And she's she's thinking about invitations, and the guy Johnny or whatever, he's like, well, how about the scroll, as an invitation? She's like, there you go, you're thinking about it then. And then Carmen's like, Johnny did, weddings or whatever, but this ain't no little chicken and chicken wings and shrimp wedding or whatever. This is the big thing. So we go on later, and Kandi and Riley go over to her aunt's house. Now, do y'all remember that episode from Real Housewives of Atlanta where Mama Joyce is about to jump on Carmen, but she had her old lady, the old lady gang with her, the two goons, her aunts, her sisters or whatever, Mama Joyce's sisters. So she goes over her aunt's house, and she wants her cousin to be in the wedding. They're real close. And her aunt just apologized to her. It was like, Kandi, I'm going to tell you again, like I apologized before. We are so sorry. I'm so sorry for what happened in that bridal shop. I'm so sorry. Todd seems like a lovely young man, and if he makes you happy, I want you to be happy. And the other aunt says, yeah, I want you to be happy too. And Kandi's like, that's great, but it just, I wish my mother could be happy for me. And they're telling her, well, Kandi, we got your back. We'll work on her, but, good luck. Good luck with that. Mama Joyce is a handful. I guess that's her sisters, but I hope they could, eventually get through to her head, because Mama Joyce is a mess. She's a serious mess. Like, for real. She has probably would help Kandi get this shit. I mean, we've been watching Kandi. We love her, but definitely more people gonna be watching because they wanna know how Mama Joyce is gonna cut the fuck up on this wedding special. Just being real. So they leave or whatever, and they go on to Todd and Carmen. Todd goes up to the candy factory, and Carmen and Johnny are there, and they just looking down and depressed. And he's like, what's going on? And she's like, look, Carmen's like, we looked, I got bad news for you. We looked all over the city. We cannot find the scroll invitations. And, it's going to be weeks. What did she say? Weeks or a couple of months for it to be ordered, if we order it. And he's like, well, there's no other ways you can send invitation? She was like, yeah, email. And he was like, well, there's no physical invitations you can send? And then she was like, yeah, I can go down to Party City and go get you a whole bunch of card invitations. And him and Carmen gets into it, and he's telling both of them, really, y'all need to do your job. Y'all looking unmotivated, basically, because they both was looking down, like they just been defeated. And she's like, this ain't really working, and I ain't trying to hear all what you about to say. And he's like, look, y'all work for her. Y'all get paychecks. Why aren't y'all working? Work harder. And he asked Johnny, has he ever did this? And Johnny's like, yeah, I plan weddings, but, not weddings this big. And he's like, well, step your game up. And Johnny's like, well, this is going to be a challenge for me. He's like, all right then, but step your game up, because now you in the big leagues. Okay? This ain't a game no more. This is the real shit right here. And he tells Carmen, she needs to act as Kandi's assistant and work. And Carmen's like, look, Todd, I do work, but I am not a wedding planner. This is not my expertise. And he's like, well, you getting paid. Do your job. And she's like, look, Todd, I don't like the way you talking to me. I don't like your tone of voice. And he's like, okay, well, if you don't like working for her, working for Kandi, then just quit your job. If you don't like Kandi working for, if you don't like working for Kandi, quit your job. Because Kandi always complains about how you're so negative. Every time you talk, you're negative. And she gets upset, and she gets up. She's like, look, I don't need this. And she walks out and she leaves. And he's like, leave then. I'm like, oh, I really ain't want to see them arguing, but she does. I get she's not a wedding planner. I do get Todd's point. It was coming on a little strong, but I was looking at it as from a boss perspective. And yeah, it's harsh, but it is real. It's business, and I don't think it was personal. You gotta do your fucking job. You do. That's why I don't want a boss. I have to be my own boss, because I can't have nobody talking to me like that. That's crazy, right? But yeah, so they go on to Kandi and Kwame, who was her stylist. He's also the guy that was at the bridal shop with Mama Joyce and her two sisters and Carmen. He was the guy that broke it up. And Kwame is her stylist. He's been her friend for over 20 years. And she has a new friend I've never seen or heard her talk about. Her friend is, well, she's not a new friend. She's been her friend for at least 23 years, like Candy says. Her name is Tan, and they're all going to Rico Chappelle's salon, Rico Chappelle's store or whatever. And she wants Rico Chappelle to design her wedding dress. So she tells him he got 5 weeks, and he's coming up with sketches, and, you know, her friend Tan, they ain't feeling it. They bring up that Rico had made her this messed up, ugly blue dress before, and he's like, look, I can do a better job. And they was like, okay, so what are you going to do with the bridesmaids? And he's like, I don't know nothing about no bridesmaids. How many are there? And she says there's 8. Her bridesmaids is the girl Tan. Kwame is her bridesman. I've never even heard that before. And Rashida, Carmen, Tiny. Who else is on there? That's about 5. Let me see. Kwame, Tan, Carmen, Rashida, Tiny. Somebody else. I can't think of it right now. But it's about 3 others I'm missing. And, you know, he's like, well, Candy, this is my gift to you. And she's like, okay, well, you got the job. You know, I can't say no to free. I'm like, Kandi'S, it don't matter how rich Kandi gets, she's still gonna be cheap as hell. I'm not mad at her. So, they go to the sisters, the old lady gang, as Kwame called them. Mama Joyce and her 2 sisters, they out at lunch, and they like, we missed you Friday. And she's like, oh, what happened Friday? And they tell her, well, we was all over at the one sister house. I can't think of her name. And she's like, oh, really? And then she's like, yeah, I thought you knew we was over there, Joyce. And Candy and Riley came over. She's like, oh, I didn't know that. And they like, well, she came over to talk about the wedding. And Mama just like, oh, that's still happening? And they like, yes. And they was like, you need to, you know, support her, basically. You need to go to the wedding and be happy. You know, you're not losing a daughter, you gaining a son. She's like, I'm not gaining no son. I'm not gaining no son. And they tell her, look, you need to stay off poor Todd. Todd is he's such a lovely young man. When you look at Kandi, you can just see her face glow up and it just sparkle. Okay? Kandi is happy. Let her be happy. Let your baby be happy. And, and Joyce is like, look, I want her to be happy, but he's not the right one for her. Todd does not have good intentions for her. And I hate to see her be, you know, used by somebody that claims they love her. And they bring up about the sisters. I mean, not the sisters. They bring up, about Todd's mother or whatever. And Mama Joyce gonna say something. Todd was raised by a pimp and a hoe. It's like, damn, where you come up with this from? She be pulling up all kind of things about Todd out of her ass. Where you come up with this information from? That his daddy was a pimp and his mama was a hoe. And then the one sister, she like, oh, I love her. she, I loved her. I love Sherry. I met Sherry at Todd's birthday party, and we just talked, and we said we're gonna be best friends. And and the other sister like, they're like, what are you rolling your lips up for? And she like, matter of fact, this is when they were at the house talking to Kandi, and when they were talking about her again, talking about Todd's mother again, and the sister rolled her lips up, and Kandi's like, what are you rolling your lips up about? And she was like, she talked too much. She just yep. And Kandi's like, well, we'll make sure that we put her right next to you at the wedding. She's like, oh no. If Sherry's sitting next to me, I'm just gonna get up and leave. She talked too much. So we go back to them at the table talking to Mama Joyce. And Mama Joyce says she's still against it no matter what. Her sisters is trying to convince her that Todd's a good guy and that her daughter is happy. And she's like, he don't love her. Okay? If he loved her, he wouldn't let her gain 30 pounds. And and then the sister like, well, he don't want to be telling his woman to watch what she eat, or she shouldn't eat that because he don't want to hurt her feelings. And she like, yeah, but she gained too much weight and he needs to let her know that she eating too much. And they're trying, they're really on Todd's side. I guess they now see the light of day. I guess before they were just listening to Mama Joyce, all the things she was saying to him, but now as they really get to meet Todd and they get to know him, they like him, and they know that Joyce is just coming up with this foolishness out of nowhere. She has no reason not to like Todd. And she, Mama Joyce keeps saying he's a hustler or whatever, and he been working on her. He's real smart. He took work off for 2 months so he can work on her. Nah, he's real good. So, I'm like, I just hope that Mama Joyce finally comes around. And then the sister tells her, we're going to be at the wedding. She's like, yeah, I'm going to be at that wedding. I'm going to be at the wedding. So then, they go on, and Kandi goes to visit her Mama Joyce. And Kandi's like, trying to start a conversation with her, and she's like ignoring her. It's awkward. It's very awkward. And she's like, well, hey, what you doing? We just been setting a wedding plan. As soon as she does that, she starts stirring her food up real loud. And then she goes and tells Kandi, I just don't want you to be hustled or whatever. Todd hit the Mega Millions, And then Kandi's like, well, you don't think much of me because, you must don't think I have more to offer than just my money. And she's like, well, I think you have a lot to offer, but you need to offer to somebody else, basically. And she's like, look, Todd was raised by a pimp and a prostitute. So Kandi's like, well, wait, mama, you're not going to go there and disrespect his deceased father. And she's like, Kandi says, I guess she said he's never even met his father. I guess he died when he was young or before he was born. I'm not sure. And Joyce like, well, I would like to come over, but of course I'm not allowed to come over your house. And Kandi's like, well, mama, you allowed, but you just gotta be nice. You just gotta be nice. And she's like, well, you let Sherry come over when you're not there all the time. She's like, yeah, if Todd's there, she's welcome. And you're welcome to come over all the time, just especially if you're nice. And she's like, all right, well, you know, it's just no convincing Mama Joyce. I don't think she's going to learn to accept Todd until he becomes a millionaire. And even when he hits a million, it might not be enough for her. She might want him to be in the multi-millions, like up in the 8 digits or 9 digits. You know, it just seems like she's never going to accept Todd. Like, he ain't do this to you, and you to just go in on his mama, his daddy like that. Come on now, this ain't right. And where are you getting this from? The people on the street still telling you this mess? Or they still telling you this? Cause you just be coming out of nowhere with this shit. Really? So y'all let me know what y'all think about this episode. It will be down below in the link. The link will be down below in the description box. And, you know, I'm not sure how many episodes. I'm pretty sure it's a short season. Since, you know, it's just a wedding special. But probably be 6 or 8 episodes. But I will keep doing reviews on here. And I will keep putting the links in the description box below. And like, share, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Jazz Chapman, JazChapman. And, you know, check out my cooking channel, Cooking with Jazz Chapman. And y'all be easy. I'm about to turn over in the bed, so peace out.